It's no secret that between 2019 and 2021-ish, we experienced somewhat of a global crisis. And yes, I am referring to the COVID-19 pandemic. But that's not what I want to talk about today. This is still very much a story about photography. And yes, I have a book to pitch and sell, but first I want to take the time to share the story behind the book. If you have seen the previous video, then you already know what it looks like. But just in case you haven't, this is it. This is the Ontluiking, or the Efflorescence in English. I see myself as somewhat of a documentarian, and I use my photography as a documentary tool more than anything. You might say I am obsessed with the ephemeral nature of our lives and believe that because of that, we should cherish each moment as much as we can. Naturally, I carry my camera almost anywhere I go. I'm always looking for a story. So, when the world went through a global crisis in the form of a pandemic for a few years, me and a befriended writer named Thijs Tomassen immediately started thinking about ways we could contribute with our pen and camera. In a way, and to speak for myself only here, I felt uniquely equipped to make a record of these strange but also special times. I never thought, if I won't, then who will? But rather, even if somebody else will, that doesn't mean I shouldn't. Still, so far, I haven't seen any story out there similar to the one we've told. The main reason we wanted to document this period is because we recognize that this could be a once-in-a-lifetime occurrence. I mean, hopefully it is. And as a documentarian, I felt a responsibility to record this moment. What I'm about to tell you next is something I have learned from Dan Milner and is something I found to be an essential part for successfully completing a long-term photography project. For a documentary project to succeed, you need two things: time and access. Time was an interesting element for this project because we didn't necessarily aim for this project to be long. We didn't really need a lot of time, but we wanted all the time. As we were documenting an ongoing pandemic, the time to start was right now, and the time to end the project was when the pandemic was over. Both Thijs and I, being inherently optimistic in spirit, we wanted to close out our story on an optimistic note. We were hoping for a true efflorescence, so to speak. Getting access is usually the hardest part of a project. For us, the best way you get that access is by choosing a subject that was close to us. Remember, the more time and the more access you have, the better your work will be. Thijs and I are both festival lovers, and over the many years of visiting, writing about and photographing them, we built up a solid relationship with many of the people organizing these events. That's not entirely random because the Netherlands, where we're both from, is home to the most festivals per year in any country. And a lot of our country's biggest festival organizations have their roots in our hometown, Amersfoort. This all meant that getting access to tell a story took little convincing. Despite festival and club culture being such a big part of the Netherlands' DNA, it was entirely neglected by our government. They had to shut down completely, making it impossible for them to continue making money and receive hardly any financial support from the government as well, making this one of the industries that was most impacted by the pandemic. Interestingly enough, this industry also houses one of the Netherlands' most creative people. So, despite being left in the cold, it was these people that were least likely to just give up. These ingredients together prove this group of people to be exemplary for human resilience and creatively tackling even the biggest challenges. To us, we could tell the story of the pandemic through these people, being hit as hard as they were, but also providing the positive energy and hopeful message we deemed vital for a project with such a depressing undertone. Because we knew the people working in this industry very well, We were also granted the possibility to tell a human story. A story that, even when you don't necessarily share the same passion for festivals and clubbing, you could still relate to. So, the pandemic is now over, I guess you could say. It's mostly over. And I'm happy that this didn't turn out to be a 10+ year project. So when Thijs wrote his last words and I photographed my last photo, we came together and discussed what the best way was to eternalize this story. Along the way, we've already built a website, as one does, but if we decided to pull the plug on the hosting, the whole project would just go down and be forgotten. So the only logical thing we could do is turn our digital product, the website, into a physical one, a book. It's an interesting thought that even in our digital age, paper is still the best way to preserve your work for eternity. Making a book is not easy, and it took us several months to go from the first draft to final version of the book. But that's a story I will save for another time. The most important thing right now is that the book exists and needs to live in as many bookshelves as possible around the world. So that even when we decide to pull the plug on the hosting of the website because it doesn't get any visitors anymore or whatever, the project doesn't die with it, but it will still continue to live on in the physical space. To commemorate the release of the book, we asked our friend who operates under the name HEYTAGMIJ to make a video about our book making journey. He's been with us during our first release where we started our pre-sale. He went with us to the printer when we were press checking the book, and he also joined us on the night of the book release to celebrate the moment and close out the project with us. I will be talking you through the process of the entire bookmaking again in the voiceover. So I would like you to watch the video and let me know what you think in the comments.
Two years it took us to make this. Just over a year to document the story and then almost another one to make the book. We went to so many different places, talked to so many amazing people, generous people that really highlight the importance of a vibrant cultural sector. A sector that, in our opinion, shows human resilience at its best. You know, sometimes you find yourself in the middle of events that are worth preserving. So what do you then do? We take so many things for granted these days, apparently also when we go through one of the biggest crises of our modern times. It feels good to finally share this story with the world. Our book exists to maintain these memories, for perspective, for hope, because even when all seems lost for a moment, as long as we unite, even in darkness, we can bloom. The Efflorescence is a book that shows how the sector can regroup itself, also in pandemic times. How we can maintain hope in a world with ever-growing insecurities. How important it is to celebrate life together. So help us preserve this story. Order the book now on ontluiking.nl. Thank you.
Okay, that should do it.